The Shield of the Americas in Regional and Global Geopolitics. Hello, this is the thinker speaking. Recently, a geopolitical event has occurred that has gone relatively unnoticed by much of the public, but which could have enormous strategic importance for the future of the Americas. We are referring to a recent meeting in which the United States and several countries of the continent discussed the idea of strengthening what some analysts have begun to call the Shield of the Americas. This concept aims to reinforce regional cooperation in the face of the new geopolitical challenges of the contemporary world. Perhaps for many citizens, these kinds of diplomatic meetings seem like distant or irrelevant events. However, sometimes certain international encounters represent the beginning of much broader historical processes that, over time, can influence the political, economic, and strategic balance of entire regions of the planet. This event, then, invites us to reflect on an interesting question. Can the American continent truly function as a kind of shield within the global geopolitical balance? Before continuing, I invite you to actively participate in this discussion. If these topics interest you, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. The ideas, questions, and opinions of those who participate in this space greatly enrich these reflections. Because this channel aims precisely for that, to think together about the major issues of our time. To understand this idea, we must first consider a fundamental element that has influenced all of human history: geography. Throughout the centuries, geography has been one of the most decisive factors in the formation of civilizations and in the balance of power among nations. Mountains, oceans, rivers, and deserts have often acted as natural barriers that protect populations or condition the development of states. Geography does not completely determine the destiny of societies, but it does establish the broad framework within which history unfolds. And in that sense, the American continent presents truly extraordinary characteristics. If we look closely at a world map, we see that America occupies a unique geographical position. The continent is protected by two gigantic natural barriers. To the east lies the Atlantic Ocean. To the west lies the Pacific Ocean. For centuries, these enormous oceanic masses have functioned as a kind of natural shield against the conflicts that developed in other regions of the planet. While Europe experienced almost constant wars between empires and rival nations, and while Asia went through complex territorial and political conflicts, the American continent remained relatively isolated from these confrontations. This does not mean that America has not had conflicts, but the geographical distance greatly reduced direct exposure to the large-scale wars that marked the history of Eurasia. In geopolitical terms, we could say that the oceans constitute a first layer of the continental shield. But the geographical shield of the Americas is not limited to the oceans. There is another equally important factor: the enormous territorial depth of the continent. From Alaska to Patagonia stretches one of the most vast geographical areas on the planet. This territorial expanse grants the continent several strategic advantages. It allows for great climatic diversity. It facilitates agricultural self-sufficiency. It offers a vast availability of natural resources. And above all, it provides a great capacity for geopolitical resilience. Large, resource-rich territories tend to have a greater capacity to adapt to changes in the international system. Herein lies one of the most important aspects of the geopolitical role of the American continent: its extraordinary wealth of natural resources. The Americas possess some of the largest freshwater reserves on the planet. It has vast expanses of fertile land capable of feeding a large part of the world's population. It possesses significant reserves of oil, natural gas, and strategic minerals. it also has enormous potential for the development of renewable energies, hydroelectric power, solar energy, wind energy. In a world where competition for natural resources is becoming increasingly intense, these factors are of fundamental strategic importance. But we must also consider an additional aspect. The world is undergoing a profound energy transition. Modern economies increasingly need energy to sustain their technological and industrial development. At the same time, the search for more sustainable energy sources has become a global priority. In this context, the Americas possess exceptional conditions. From the large hydroelectric complexes of South America to the enormous solar potential of various regions of the continent, the Americas have resources that could play a fundamental role in the new energy economy of the 21st century. This means that the continent not only possesses natural resources, it also has the potential to become a relevant player in the global energy transformation. But geography and resources are not enough to explain a region's position within the international system. It is also necessary to consider the political and cultural structure of the societies that inhabit that territory. And here, a very interesting phenomenon emerges. If we look at the history of the countries of the Americas, we will see that there is a recurring element, a shared political ideal. That ideal is the aspiration for a democratic system. It is true that dictatorships have existed in the continent's history. Authoritarian regimes have existed. There have been profound political crises. But even these regimes, in many cases, have sought to present themselves to the public using the language of democracy. This occurs because the population of American societies generally possesses a strong aspiration toward political systems based on participation, freedom, and popular vote. This cultural trait also constitutes an important element within the political equilibrium of the continent. There is also another interesting aspect that some analysts have pointed out when discussing the so-called Shield of the Americas. Some observers consider that this type of initiative could be interpreted as an update or a new approach to an old geopolitical idea known as the Monroe Doctrine. Formulated in the 19th century, that doctrine held that external powers should not intervene in the affairs of the American continent. Over time, this idea has been interpreted in different ways, and at certain points in history has also generated criticism and controversy. However, beyond these historical interpretations, today the debate can be framed differently. In a world where geopolitical tensions are once again intensifying, many regions are seeking to strengthen their cooperation to protect their stability and identity. From this perspective, some analysts see the idea of the Shield of the Americas as an attempt to strengthen continental cooperation in the face of the challenges of an increasingly complex international landscape. If this approach can be developed with respect for the continent's cultural and political diversity, it could represent an opportunity to strengthen regional stability. However, history also teaches us an important lesson. Civilizations rarely collapse due to external threats. In many cases, the most serious problems arise within societies themselves. Extreme political divisions, institutional weakness, corruption, economic crisis. All these factors can weaken even the most geographically advantaged regions. For this reason, the true challenge for the American continent depends not only on its geography or its natural resources. It also depends on the political maturity of its societies. Perhaps the true shield of a continent is not only its geography. Perhaps the true shield of a civilization is the quality of its institutions, the maturity of its citizens, and the capacity for cooperation among its peoples. America possesses extraordinary conditions, but there is something else we must consider. History does not move in a straight line. Often, history swings like a pendulum that, with its pushes and pulls, generates particular moments in which opportunities open up for our peoples. Opportunities to become aware, opportunities to make decisions, opportunities to take action. In those moments, perhaps it is not so important to simply ask why things happen. Perhaps what is truly important is understanding what opportunity lies before us. In that sense, the idea of a shield of the Americas can represent more than just a geopolitical strategy. It can represent a historic opportunity, an opportunity for the nations of the continent, even in their diversity, to cooperate and build greater stability together for the future. An opportunity for the Americas to be more than just a territory on the world map, but a region capable of becoming a conscious protagonist of its own destiny. I am the thinker, and this space is precisely for that purpose, to reflect calmly on the great issues of our time. If you find these kinds of reflections interesting, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and participate with your comments, because thinking together is also a way of building the future. See you in the next video, dear friends.